Alright, let's get going. Planning board, June 26th, we have a quorum. First up is Tidemore Realty. Applicant seeks to modify lot lines between 1A and open space 1. So,
This is about as straightforward as they get. This is the Tadmore development, Goose Pond Path, this is here. This is the open space. And as you may or may not remember, there was the fire cistern development is located right here. And I think what happened is the fire cistern that was delivered was longer than what the cut sheet was. They put it in, and then we went out and located it, we realized it was over the lot line on lot 1. So really just did an A&R plan that, that this dash line was the previous line. We just jockeyed that over 7 feet and then just did a equal swap there in the back, so no change in area. Still conforms to all frontage.
Okay with it?
Yeah.
Okay. Move that we accept the modified lot lines between lot 1A and open space 1 for Tadmore.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Easiest thing of the year.
Yeah.
Takes longer to sign.
I know.
Well, it's something simple like this, it's hard to,
Yeah.
This is the 6th right here.
And the fire cistern's in the open space, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. When they first figured out, they figured they could do an easement or something, they said, it's easier just to do the lot line.
Yeah, I agree.
Selling lot 1, they don't have to worry about that.
I still haven't been out to look at the walkway that they put in.
Oh, yeah,
in the woods.
I saw that.
Have you, how does it look?
I havened walked it, but I
Oh.
could see it,
See it from
I
the
can
road,
see it from the
yeah.
road, but I hadn't
Yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah. Looks like they did a good job.
contractor's done a good job over there.
He has,
Yeah.
yeah, he has. He's been on top of it.
Not a single issue, I don't think, right?
Not really, no.
So what time's the game then?
There's one on Friday at 6, and then 2 on Saturday.
This is round robin.
I don't know what it is.
It's not like you lose on Friday and you're out, right?
No, definitely not.
Connor's interested to go see his friends play.
Yeah.
So what do you guys plan on Friday?
I don't know if they've done the draw yet. Uxbridge and Pepperell are definitely there. And then I'm not sure if there's any other towns.
Cool. Who's your ace?
For the pitcher,
Yeah, probably.
Caden
Yeah,
Rogers.
figured. Good?
Yep.
What do you need there?
I need two of the, paper copies.
See you here for the next one too?
Yep.
Alright, so next up we got Keys Pond. Applicant seeks to modify the lot lines between 1A and 2A.
Also pretty similar, so we had, as you come up Moderator Way, off of Hudson Road, it's the first 2 lots on the right. And as you remember, this winter we were in, we modified this drainage basin, and what that did is that kind of just made it a little less area to work with here, so in order to get the wells and septics all to meet the offsets for the Fulton regulations, we had to basically just tweak the one lot line here in the back.
Good, these dotted lines, and stuff,
That's a grading and drainage easement for the
Oh,
basin.
okay.
This too, so
Oh,
the
I
basin
see.
kind of is right to
Oh, this is the easement,
Yeah.
okay.
So both lots still have sufficient area, frontage, all that. Really, it was in order to get the well on this lot up in the back.
Okay. Alright,
And which lot is that? Where you're adding the variance
It's going from lot, what was lot 2 to lot 1.
here? Okay.
How much frontage is on 1A now?
I got 131 here, and what, that's 148 plus 54 plus 30, so. So this is a phosphorus, so obviously it's
Yeah.
25-foot minimum.
Okay, yeah, so 1A includes all the drainage easement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
The front of one hasn't changed, right? It's just this.
No,
Yeah.
really, it's just this flag in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's fine.
Make a motion. Move that we accept the lot line changes for Keys Farm, lots 1A and 2A.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I did, I was gonna wait to talk to you today. I just need to see a person. It sounds like we need to put some drainage.
Yeah, definitely. But like, I was thinking, how we.
Yeah, let me, when are you gonna be, like, are you guys done season or?
No, we'll be there for the weekends and stuff, so.
Alright, yeah, let me, if you have a couple days where you're gonna be out there,
Yeah,
let me know, and I can just kinda come out, look at it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be there all weekend for.
Oh, you mean this weekend?
Yeah. but we
I'm
can also-
actually
Yeah, we can find another time to do
Yeah.
it too. Yeah.
flying to London tomorrow, so,
Flying to London?
Alright,
and I guess the Red Sox ain't.
Nice.
I meant to email you.
Yeah.
But
No, no,
I was
agree.
like, oh, I'll see you, I'll see you
Yeah.
on Wednesday, so.
Have a good night.
These are,
You get the Mylar, Brandon, for this one?
What's that?
yeah, I think.
Yeah, he's got my other
Okay.
copy.
Okay.
You don't need,
Thank
you don't
you.
need the paper?
We don't know.
Okay, I'll just put it in the file.
Are you bringing the kids with you?
No, just, and I'm leaving my husband too, so.
Oh,
I have a girlfriend that lives over there, and two of my friends are diehard Red Sox fans, so they organized it all, and I just said, yeah, I'll figure it out. They're actually going tonight at the airport now.
So we're actually ahead of schedule, so we're gonna jump ahead. So organization and planning board, I'll happily be chairman again, but if somebody else is interested, you know, speak up, or if somebody has an idea of how we should organize chairman and vice chairman and stuff. Into the floor.
You've done a good job. I nominate Eric to
I'll second.
chair.
Any other nominations? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And vice chair, and Unfortunately, I'm always here, so the vice chair doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
much to do.
Okay,
But if you
I know
want-
I've been it, but if anyone else is open to it, please feel free. I don't mind continuing, but if anyone's up for it,
I guess the only thing is like, yeah, I copy you on emails and stuff sometimes, so
yeah.
get a little extra info. No?
I nominate Danielle for vice chair.
One second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that was easy. Minutes?
Do we wanna do, the calendar? Oh, sorry, you're gonna do minutes
I
first?
can do the
I
calendar too.
unfortunately don't have minutes, I was hoping for
Okay,
minutes.
so
Okay.
let's
but-
do, calendar.
Sure. So I think we've typically done like
One in
sec-
July, one in
second week of July and second week of August, I think. That's kind of what we've done, which would be what?
The 11th
July
and the
10th.
8th. Or the 10th and the 14th, yeah.
I mean, those are good for me.
That's fine, I'm good.
I'm not available on the 10th of July.
Do you wanna jump it to the 7th? I mean, there's 5 Wednesdays in July,
It's,
so.
I mean, it's not, as long as there's not people, that's fine.
Both the 10th and the 17th work for me.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah, either one works for me.
I'm actually
I
not-
can't do the 31st, that's the one.
I'm not sure about either of those actually, so don't, as long as we have enough people, then it's what's the rest for you guys.
I don't know, let's just say the 10th, I guess.
You wanna keep it the 10th?
If you're not sure of either.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, I might be away from both actually.
Just
Where
one,
it's a holiday week, should we go
Oh,
So we do the
Yeah.
17th, just to give more time
It
in
might
case
be.
something
Yeah.
comes up.
well, one thing I was gonna mention, excuse me, with the master plan, I talked to Bob Sikansky, and he was hoping that planning board can meet with board of selectmen, I believe they're meeting on the 11th, so just, if the board is amenable to that, they'd like to have sort of a joint meeting that night.
So then, let's not be on the 10th, I'd say let's be on the 17th,
Yeah,
so it's not back to back.
so the 17th and then 14th, I guess.
There might be a slight chance I might not be here for the 17th, my husband's traveling, so just, if I can make arrangements for a babysitter, otherwise I may have to be home that night, I don't know.
Hopefully it's late.
Yeah, so July 17th at 7:30?
Yep.
Okay. And we'll do August 14th, and then after that, we go back to 2,
Second and fourth, yeah.
Right, so do we say August 14th for the next one?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then 9, 11,
September 11th, September 25th.
And 9/11, we have the, Century Mill Room hearing continued to that date.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Infamous day, your birthday.
Actually, the last time I went to London was that year, I came back that Sunday, and Tuesday's when it happened. Because I was wondering if my birthday friends, it was.
Okay.
Do we set the rest of them for, until December?
Usually I do that in September.
Oh, you do that in Sep-
Meetings,
okay.
yeah, it's typically the second or fourth, unless there's a holiday, so.
I mean, we know it's 11th, 25th.
At least we're
Yeah,
gonna,
November 27th probably isn't best.
Yeah, usually we go with just one.
Yeah,
Yeah, November, December tends to be one meeting.
yeah.
yeah, so like 11, 13, and then.
We
usually-
probably won't meet December
After
25th.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because usually, yeah, November, December, usually one meeting, right? It's usually the first Tuesday, first Wednesday, of the month.
So I think we pretty much know now.
Okay.
What it's gonna be for December.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just gonna enter them all in, at least
Oh,
kind of
sure.
tentatively now,
That's
so
a
I've
good
got
idea.
it in my calendar.
Close enough, Erica? It's not here anymore.
I think we're fine.
Okay.
Okay. And as usual, I'm excusing myself.
Do you mind actually leaving the room?
That's fine.
Actually,
Yes, please.
Mind or refer?
He doesn't listen to me when I say that. Mark, please leave the room. Okay, so we're here to discuss the construction schedule, the remaining driveway items, look at the progress report, and extend the deadline for the applicant to complete the driveway or not.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Attorney Kevin Erickson with me, Walter Erickson. Give you sort of a status update on where we are. We believe we've completed our entire list with the exception of the as-built plan, the final as-built plan, and we have Ducharme and Dillis working towards that end now, and we hope to have that soon, at which point we'll submit that plan to the board, to Mr. Hanway for review, and hopefully come back in here for what I would anticipate to be a final time, to check off all the boxes.
So, made some progress, it seems, over the past couple weeks. You got the signs in, you got some, are the basins completed now?
Completed.
Yeah. I don't know, I guess maybe we should just step through the list. Do we have a?
I didn't print that full list. What you do have is an email from Fred Hanway that, so Fred, Walter, and I went out to the site on Tuesday to review everything that had been done. And Fred had supplied sort of an email
Yep.
with some updates.
So everything's been done besides these items?
Yeah, so, Ducharme and Dillis staked out the detention basins that they
Yep.
wanted us to align.
Yeah.
So we corrected that using their grade stakes. Then we loomed and hydro-seeded those areas. We constructed the swale on the left-hand side when you first go in, and we hydro-seeded that. Then they put additional screen topsoil along the sides of the road where it was needed. Some of the areas that were barren, they hydro-seeded those. We cleaned out the catch basins and the drain manhole. We raised the drain manhole and we paved it. We
You didn't pave
installed
over it, right?
No.
Just- Okay.
No. Once was enough.
Raised it up, paved over.
We installed the signs. We planted an additional 35 shrubs and 4 trees. And we think we completed everything on that list that was said, and we've contacted Ducharme and Dillis. Greg went out there and did a visual inspection, and he's gonna send the field crew out there so we can modify the as-built and send it to Mr. Hamway for approval.
So, good. Fred, you got your list here. So, so it's just some missing items in the as-built that you wanted?
Correct. Not missing
No,
any
we didn't.
estimation, not
We didn't.
missing, they haven't completed the as-built.
Ba-
Yeah.
baselines.
A continuation on the as-built.
Correct.
To show the revised grading that was done for the
Right.
ponds and the swale and.
A flow path needs to be created off the edge of the cul-de-sac to allow ponded water to flow to basin number 3.
Fred showed that to me the other day when we were doing our inspection, so we'll take care of that before the as-built.
Okay. Maintenance of the stormwater system, so it just needs to be cleaned out.
No, the stormwater report requires maintenance of the swales and the detention basins, mowings, cleanings and so forth, at different times of the year, so that hasn't been done.
So, and just so the board knows our position on this, it wasn't on our list, and it wasn't on our list for a reason, because the last lot sold out there in December of 17, the maintenance of that area now falls and has fallen squarely with the residents. They should have a maintenance association at this point. They should be maintaining those areas. It's part of the covenant that when they took title to their property, they become a part of.
When does the association supposed to kick in, Erica?
It's kicked in.
Yeah, like at what point though in the construction? When the last lot sells, is that when the association kicks in? Like when does it switch over between?
Well, as
Development.
far as the town's concerned,
Oh, I understand that.
my point of view is, you know, Walter's still the applicant. We still have this open special permit with open items, so I'm not looking to the association to it. We would be looking at Walter because, yeah, he's the applicant.
See, but that's, and this is where we differ. From a legal standpoint, that's an ongoing maintenance item as opposed to a completion item under the special permit. And, you know, I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever. And this goes back to certain items that we actually agreed to do, that for a long time, I was suggesting to this board, we shouldn't have to do, such as, you know, dealing with tire ruts. At this stage of the game, where, you know, it was clear most of those tire ruts were caused by passenger vehicles. That maintenance falls squarely on the Common Driveway Association. This is not something any longer that, the special permit doesn't tie Walter to maintain this common driveway in perpetuity, and just because there's open items in the special permit, doesn't obviate the need for the residents to do what they're required to do by law, which, you know, again, it's not a huge ask. It's ordinary maintenance that, at this point, you know, again, as of 2017, they should have established a maintenance association. They should have established a manner for collecting dues for things like snow plowing, landscaping if they wish to landscape, you know, maintaining those stormwater management systems, cleaning out those catch basins. At a certain point, it's not appropriate to say that we're here in front of you today, so you gotta do everything, even though this is clearly an obligation of the residents.
How is it stated in the code, like,
I was just gonna ask that.
because this seems more like a legal question, so I just don't know how, I mean,
What's the precedence in other common driveways? That the developer,
Typically, the developer, maintains the driveway through construction. I mean, we're finishing the construction of this driveway now. And I believe, I have to go back and look at the special permit, but typically we have language in there that says they're supposed to maintain the stormwater management system till the end of the project. So, again, my stance is that Walter is responsible, and I agree with Kevin, this is not a heavy lift. We're asking him to basically mow the basins. I did talk to conservation because they are within the, I think at least two of them are within the wetland buffer, so I wanted to make sure that they were amenable to that. Fred did point out to me that it is in the operation maintenance plan, but I still wanted to check with Rebecca Longville. So Rebecca said, basically, yes, they should be mowed. Essentially, there should be no woody vegetation in the basin, that's what they don't want. The other stuff, they don't really, like the grasses, they don't, that's fine, but any woody vegetation should be what's removed. Cause that can impact the basin.
I mean, maybe just put a pin in it for this instance, we can go through the rest of his list, because there's not much else on here. The submit the material slips for the material and loom, no problem, we're gonna do that, in the coming days, we'll make sure we get that to Eric and Fred. Item number 2 on the, next list, I just wanna jump to that one real quick, is the, submit documentation for the drainage system, nose cleaned and flushed. I actually think we did that, Erica.
You did, yes, you did, I do
okay.
have that.
So that's all set. And then the infrared. The area was repaved for the hot patch, so hot mix. So my understanding is that there's minimal seam there. I know Fred notes here something about an infrared process.
Walter and I had talked about that weeks and weeks ago, so we blended in, it's gonna have, let me point out one other thing, I haven't I was not there for any of this work.
yeah, I was gonna ask that, so you wanted to see how it was flowing when it was opened up, right?
Right.
Which wasn't done?
All the work was done without me being there.
But now,
All of
the
this
manhole
work.
cover could just be,
Right, that's one thing, but the manhole itself is supposed to have a concrete collar around it, and I don't believe it's done. If you look on the plan from Walter and I talked about yesterday, and let's put it this way, it's supposed to be 1.5 feet out and around the structure, the frame. As far as the plan goes, the opening isn't even that big, so it couldn't have been done.
Right,
So-
but like I told Fred, that was adjusted with concrete barrel blocks, so it's the same thing, and it's
Yeah.
customary and typical to adjust the structures with barrel blocks and then just have the water tie the basin on.
It's not
And
the same thing.
The only other thing I'll say is, we'll agree to disagree. The only other thing I'll say is that, you know, we did, and I had raised this with the board and with Erica, the time was tight here, so our ability to provide advance notice, maybe the amount of notice that Fred would have liked was limited. We did notify him that we were gonna be working out there Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, weather permitted. I know he wasn't available on Wednesday. Erica did go out there, and that was the result of that. Staff report, Thursday it poured, no work was done out there. Friday, it drizzled in the morning, and then it was a nice day the rest of the day. So, you know, there was notice attempted to be given, and then the work was done on Saturday. It was a short job.
We got Conservation Commission approval on Tuesday night, and we went out there the following morning. So, we were trying to meet the board's deadline to have everything done.
Might have clarified, as far as what he talked about notice, it wasn't even nearly acceptable notice. Let me explain what happened. The Wednesday, I got a text Wednesday morning saying, they're out there, can you come out? I had a medical emergency all week, I couldn't come out. I called, Erica went out Thursday, it was raining and nothing was happening.
He had left for the day at that point. Yeah.
So Thursday night, I emailed Walter and said, are they working tomorrow, what's the schedule? He said they won't be working if it's raining. It rained a good part of the day, not just a drizzle.
It was a
I may
drizzle.
finish, please?
You should have been.
And anyways, they weren't gonna work, so I didn't go out. They worked Saturday. There's no reason why I wasn't told that they were working Friday and Saturday. I was only told one day that they were working, and that was Wednesday, and I was given notice of, no notice, they're out there. So I didn't give any notice. I kept contacting him in my emails, and you can see him say that there wasn't work being performed. I kept on asking what the schedule was, I never got one. I'm just pointing out that the work was done, there's no inspections done. And
Yes.
it was that they're not given any
So around the,
notice to it.
so that's mainly around the manhole cover?
Anything, look, and even the material that's got filled there, the amount of loam, the digging out the swale, the new swale we talked about, down to subgrade, none of that was inspected. Also, that swale, I don't believe it has the depth that shows on the plan that Deshaun Willis had submitted.
So you plan to go out there for one more review? Or another review?
Well, once I have the estimate, but I'm just letting you know, it was, nothing was inspected.
Right.
Even the signs weren't, that was done,
Okay.
I happened to drive by and they were putting the last one in.
Yeah.
That was 2 weeks ago or whatever, so even notice on that wasn't given.
When did they say the as-bilt's are gonna be ready?
The what? Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
it was.
What'd they say as an estimate?
He said they would, were on the schedule, but they're backed up.
What does that mean? July?
I don't know. I hope that they can have it done the next 2 weeks. Really, all they have to do is go out there and shoot the grades that they laid out. Their stakes are still there, so I don't think it'll be a big deal.
Okay. So Fred, you wouldn't go back and review until the as-bills were complete?
There's nothing to review until I see the as-built, so everything's surface.
Right. So, so we meet next on the 17th of July. So it'd be nice to get the as-bills, if we could talk to Dushan to get them ahead of time, so give you enough time to go review before the 17th. And what I'm hearing is, so you pretty much have to review everything that's been done. Can you get in the manhole cup, get the lid off and see the flow or whatever that you wanna see?
They should be there to open it up for me, yeah.
Okay.
That's only some of it, I mean.
No, I know, he has to go
That's the
down
only
the
thing,
entire
that's the
checklist.
only thing I can see, visually see, everything else.
But you
is-
can't see the base and what they put in.
Correct, everything else is surface. But even the concrete collar around there, there's no, I can't see how there's a concrete collar for it around there. It's different than the blocks and mortar that he's talking about, that's to raise it up to adjust it to the height that you need. But the concrete collars around there for snow plow, to hold it in place for plowing purposes. And the concrete collar that's on the plan is larger than the area that was excavated to raise the structure, the frame up to grade.
Mhm. Okay, so we need a full review of everything that's been done in the last couple of
Yeah.
weeks.
Even, I know a lot of mix that was put in, but the seam is going to open up.
And this seam was around,
This is where they had to cut out the asphalt to raise the frame. So like I said, we had talked about this well before, about infrareding, and what that does, it heats up the adjacent existing asphalt, and when the new asphalt's put in, they sort of blend together more.
It's
We don't
a-
even know if there was tack coated along there to give it a adhesion, different things like that.
is that something you could do after the fact or no?
No. The only thing that can be looked at is the opening the cover and looking at the pipes in the manhole. That's the only thing.
Alright, so we need the as-bills, that flow path off the edge of the cul-de-sac. To me, it seems like the main, so stormwater management should be done. Do we say the submit material slips for the fill material, we're waiting on that?
Correct.
We do have the documentation for the drainage system was cleaned and flushed. And then everything around the manhole cover.
What about this catch basin?
I said that first, the number one, catch, around basin number 3.
This one here, yeah, filled with water.
Oh, on the pictures, based on Erica's.
Yeah.
It's gonna be full of water though, it has a 4-foot sump. Those two catch basins have a 4-foot sump, so they're gonna be full of water up to the invert.
So going through Erica's pictures, she has pictures of the new swale, and she said it's installed to capture the runoff from the side yard. No runoff appears to sheet flow from the side yard to the driveway anymore. I think I saw an email from a resident where they weren't sure, maybe they saw something. Manhole uncovered raised, let's see, what else? Does that, explanation for the water in the basin, in the, catch basin?
Yeah, there should be water in the sump, but there was still water flowing through the pipes, so I don't know. Once they shoot the inverse of the pipes, I think that'll give a little more information as to how that's functioning. So,
So they, once they shoot
Yeah, with
the
the-
inverts
so-
of the pipe?
So the
Once
end-
the John Dillis gets the as-built elevations
Oh,
of
So we
pipes.
can see how the pipes and make sure that they're not they're all going the right direction.
Okay.
Now, the way it was designed, there's only a 5-inch difference between the outlet and the detention basin and the inlet in the catch basin.
What's the slope of the pipes?
I think it's
0.5%.
Yeah.
0.5%, okay, so it is, that's
So
standard.
it's still gonna
No.
build up a little bit, so
Yeah,
there's
after
gonna be some.
rainstorms, yeah. No, 0.5% is standard, as long as it just wasn't installed that way.
Right.
Cause you gotta make sure with 0.5%, you will do it 0.5%, cause if you don't,
You had the loam laid out, how many inches of loam did you put?
There was already a loom base there,
Yeah,
so they went over the top
yeah,
and came up higher. And we use sifted loom from W.J. Graves.
okay.
how much did you add?
I think they used almost 4 truckloads, but I'll have the slips.
But do you know, like inch-wise?
No, I don't, and it varies depending on where they were.
Fred, what's required?
I believe on that, I think it's 4 inches is required.
At least a minimum.
There was one before.
But there was all.
Yeah, we weren't proposing to scrape up what was existing and re-loam and
You just put a
reseed.
new layer.
We were patchworking.
What the slips will give me is a volume that they was trucked there. I'll have to then, out at the site,
For the areas, okay.
figure out the dimensions of the areas that were reloamed, and figure out the volumes that,
And on the fill,
that'll give me the, working backwards, will give me the depth, the average depth.
the fill for the side slopes, we use a sandy fill from Graves. We didn't use common fill, so we used material from Graves as well. That was processed, so it was good material.
yeah, it appeared to be good material when we were out there. The site looked much more stable. The shoulders of the road were brought up. And they did hydro seed, which is better than what they did previously, which is the seeding, so.
Did we get the number of plantings we were supposed to? So you said 35
Fred's
shrubs.
they're gonna include it on the as-built, so Fred can verify.
Alright.
But the trees that they put in, from what I can tell in the field, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Fred, they appeared to be a larger diameter than what they had previously. They appeared larger.
Correct, but what was done previously is still there. not all of them replaced, ones were added in there, I think one was dead, two were dead, whatever. The numbers might have been shy, so the four you said, Walter?
Yes.
Four new ones, I believe have all the caliper and height, but previous to that, there were ones that still don't have the caliper or height required.
The only, and we talked about that at the last meeting that I was here, those trees have been in there for over a year, ripping them up at this point. They're alive, the ones that were dead were replaced, they're alive and thriving, it doesn't make any sense to tear those up.
How many were not meeting the,
I'd have to go through the whole list, and so I don't know.
that's fine.
So we think, I think Duchamp Dillis can have that as-built, and we could make the 17th meeting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, I would like there to be plenty of time for Fred to go out and review after the as-built, so. I mean,
Consider on the 17th, and then, I mean, it's just a public meeting, so, you know, it only requires notice 48 hours anyway, so if it's, you know, if it's not enough time to get on for the 17th, then it'll be your next meeting.
I don't think this, yeah, I guess he's gonna, Fred's gonna need more than 48 hours to.
No, 48 hours for notice
Oh,
purposes, so I
okay,
mean, it doesn't necessarily matter if we're running late in getting the as-built to Fred and he needs more time.
We can
then
put
we
it
just
off
continue
till the next
meeting.
meeting.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't wanna keep dragging this along.
Neither do I.
I'd like to wrap it up.
So would I.
But, I mean, can we press upon Ducharme and Dillis to get it done by the 10th? And then that would give Fred a week to get out there.
So we'll call him first thing tomorrow morning,
Yeah.
and we'll tell him that the board would like us to get that done by the 10th,
Yeah,
and to tell them to do whatever they can to do it.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, the challenging factor here
Yeah.
too is next week is a lost week for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's very challenging, but certainly we'll impress upon them,
Yeah.
you know, our desire and the board's desire to move it along.
Right, and I, oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have to say, I'm definitely a little disappointed about the fact that Fred wasn't able to be out there to see this stuff. I think there was a fair amount that was going on. I know I missed the last meeting, so just trying to remember certain things. There was a pretty lengthy list of everything that was being done. I know you're gonna review the as-built and everything, but are there other concerns you have with the fact that you weren't there to see this? And, yeah, you can look at surface conditions, you can look at the as-built, but,
I mean, you can't tell what's underneath, I just wanna make it, let the board know that it wasn't
Yeah.
inspected. So it's, let's say the as-bills are fine,
yeah, that's, okay.
then it gets, my statement would be that the as-bills, reviewing the as-bills, they meet the design plan, design criteria, whatever, and, should be noted that XYZ was not inspected during this construction. Just for the sake of, someone has to be, responsible if something's wrong, but it can't be.
and the main
me
area
if
of
I didn't see
concern
it.
with that is just around the manhole cover.
The swale,
The
it's,
swale.
different, whatever they did. It doesn't matter, whatever they did.
I mean, it was,
From-
all of the
from the
construction that
sign,
was done.
What I went through and came up with that list after all, which is, I went through the, bond items, and that's what's left, still has to be done to verify things.
Right.
There was, I don't know, do they have the email from the resident?
They do.
Okay, so there's one part, and I'm sorry, I did not notice this, and we didn't walk the curb, but there's a part in one of the pictures shows the curb's pretty well damaged, and I don't remember a thing like that, so it had to be during the, is that one right there, Bruce?
Yeah, it's this one.
And that had to be during the construction. And talking, just so you know too, talking about the ruts from way back, like he's talked about, the ruts were before, happened by residents. There's one length that's very, very long that looks like it's from, on the new loam and hydro seed and Walter Soda too. It has to be a truck and a trailer. It's 30, 40 feet long, that one we saw, I mean, so it's not, it's hard hard to think the resident drove up that, the owners drove up that much of their, on their lawn, so to speak. And it's just freshly done, so.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. It's not hard for me to envision something like that. We saw numerous tire ruts, and I don't wanna rehash all this, but numerous tire ruts that were done by UPS trucks while Walter was out there. Delivery trucks, clearly residential car trucks. So, I don't think it's fair to say that something that's out there now is clearly the applicant. And the only other thing I wanna say about the notice, because it was brought up again. And this was a concern of mine as well, when Erica reached out and asked for 72 hours advance notice. We did try to inform the board, and I think I expressly said, we're going to conservation on Tuesday night. We only have until the 26th to do the work. That means we will be starting the work, weather permitted, on Wednesday. That's exactly what we did. And then we worked, I'm sorry, Fred. And then we didn't work on Thursday, but we would have, as we indicated to Fred, if it hadn't rained. On Friday, I do have to dispute the quality of the conditions. They were out there working. There were 4 members of my office who left at 11 o'clock. I work in Westford. They went to go golfing for the rest of the day because it was sunny. I don't agree that it was raining all day Friday. If Walter had told Fred that, I understand, but I don't want to be painted as a bad actor who didn't take into consideration the desire for Fred to be out there. We did what I think was appropriate under the circumstances, given the fact that, first and foremost, timing was of the essence for us. We wanted to get this done. And I'm glad we did, because it then rained yesterday. If we had waited until Monday to start the work, we'd be here telling you that almost nothing is done.
Okay, the residents.
So I just,
Yes.
2 points, Kevin Saline, 151 Long Hill Road. As the residents sitting here, we're very concerned about the work that was done. I think in the meeting that we were in, it was made absolutely clear that the builder should notify the town and that Fred should be present when work is done, especially for things like him being able to look into the hole there in the bridge and make sure everything's okay. Instead, as Fred stated, there was little to no notice. They went ahead and did whatever they wanted, and that's kind of been the pattern for the past 2 years. There's been times when Fred has said, don't do anything until I come and go over it with you, or don't do this or don't do that, and they just basically go do whatever they want. So we're very concerned that Fred wasn't there to see this work. It made us feel a little better that meeting, knowing that Fred would be there to make sure it's done. And this was all done without his presence.
And this goes back to June 6th, so it's not just about after the Conservation Commission approved their work. On June 6th, they were out digging up the pavement to raise the manhole cover. We had to call Erica ourselves when we were not sure what was happening, because there hadn't been any notice that we were aware of. That's when Erica went out to look at it. That was back on June 6th. It wasn't paved until much more recently, so they had, I don't know what their excuses for not notifying Fred at that point was, but that was a while ago. That was not based on this little time frame they had from the Conservation Commission. So I agree. I'm frankly pleasantly surprised they did as much work as they did, but I, based on their track record, don't have much faith that it was done correctly either. So I'm a little concerned about the drainage, because I understand, so Charmin Dillis does shoot the inverse, that sounds like a farm line, I don't know what that means, but we'll show what has happened underneath. But because they recently paved it, does that mean Fred can never see what he was supposed to see when they dug it up? I don't, so now if we go 2 years and we still see issues with the piping,
So just to answer your one question, so the way it works is a surveyor goes out and when they say shoot the inverts, they're literally having a rod and a measurement tool that will measure the elevation that the invert's at, and once those are all plotted, you can actually see, based on those elevations, how the pipe is flowing. So it's,
Okay.
what that is it takes the shots of what was built against the design plan. So Fred can look at the as-built and say, okay, this is what,
Okay, so
he
that-
can verify that the pipes were installed per plan. So that's all that kind of, at least the pipe for the underground work, we can verify the slopes and how that's going to the
He'll
base.
just never, he'll never be able to see the subgrade.
The material under, the stuff, you wouldn't be able to verify, but the actual pipes, we would be able to at least confirm that the slopes are correct.
Could you, I mean,
But all that
Could-
material that we use for the road and subgrade, Fred inspected before we put it all down.
well, I was gonna say, could you give us documentation on the subgrade?
So, that was all inspected
That's all,
prior to
all
paving.
that, that's
yeah,
only
no, it
what's
was
been
the-
done this past week.
And then we're gonna give you the slips on the fill and the material used there.
Yeah.
And the fill was for that slope that dropped off,
Yeah.
and the loam is for the loam.
So
Those
maybe,
are the two material slips.
What I'm saying is, can we back our way into a
Well, that's what
review of?
he was saying he
yeah,
can approximate, obviously, if you have the slips, the volume of material that was used, and Fred can estimate the area based on the limit of disturbance. He can back into an approximate depth of material that was used, so we can get a rough idea.
I was also talking about the manhole cover.
Oh, sorry,
The
sorry.
manhole cover we can't, there's no way without digging it out again.
But there's no documentation on,
But like we said, that was inspected prior to any paving, so Fred knew the material that we used.
I don't think he's talking about the material, I think on that, he's just referring to the concrete collar, is that correct?
Oh,
I
and we
think
used
he's
the
just-
barrel blocks.
But that's not a concrete collar, so everybody understands, the barrel blocks is what's used to raise it to the grade. Bricks or, in this case, use barrel blocks, and they moored it together. The concrete collar is to hold the whole casting in place, and it comes up to the binder pavement.
is that something that turns up in the as-built or no?
No,
No. it
Cause
won't,
it's just to
It's buried.
shore it
It's
up.
buried. Well, you won't see it at the surface because you pave over it. Cause you want the pavement to go right to the.
but the size that's required area-wise, the excavation of the pavement is not large enough to accomplish that size.
I mean, so you know that they're saying it's not there. right?
Well, I mean, you're saying
No,
you
he's
didn't,
saying it is,
Oh,
we're
you're
talking
saying
two
it's-
different things.
Yeah,
you used the barrel blocks, you didn't use a concrete collar.
correct. And,
Okay,
but-
so,
and it's not uncommon to use barrel blocks to bring it up. The barrel blocks
Right.
are larger than the manhole cover and the flange on the manhole cover, and it's easier to adjust the height.
I guess what I'm saying is, sorry to interrupt you, is if you were out there and you saw them put in the barrel blocks and not the collar, would you make them change what they were
The
doing?
barrel blocks don't take the place of the collar.
yeah, no, the barrel blocks just bring it up.
Yeah,
So
Excuse me,
the
so-
blocks are needed to raise it,
yeah, so,
and then in addition to the blocks, you put the concrete collar on it.
But you don't think that's the case, you think the barrel blocks are enough, is that what you're,
I actually
Same
do,
with
we had to adjust it, if it had to be adjusted 9 inches or 11 inches, you can't do that with a concrete collar.
no, I think,
The concrete collar is an adjustment, here's the adjustments, here's the structure, the manhole, here's the cover of the surface. This right here is the brick adjustments,
okay.
okay? This is the concrete collar, 1.5 outside and then a foot thickness. That goes all the way, either 2 foot,
Do all the other manholes have a
So
concrete
goes-
collar?
there is no other manhole.
Oh, this is the only one?
Yeah. And that's to hold it in place for plowing for the most part. It's common practice to put the concrete collars in the manholes. They put in this part, the barrel block, from what I'm gathering, from what Walter's saying. I will have no problem with the barrel block. It's what is used to bring it up to the elevation you need. Because these are certain size sections, and you get to a certain point, and you have to
need just
somehow
inches, yeah.
take the 5 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches, whatever that's left over between this height and this height, and adjust it, so it really for adjusting purposes.
So, and also on top of that, you're saying that they didn't properly seam here? So, I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Usually you tap coat it
yeah,
for starters, but, and my personal experiences, they don't, until I argue with them. They, in general pavers, I should say in general. Every paving thing we've done, when it came up to existing, oh, I don't have any tack coat, or let's go get some, or whatever it might be. It always has to be reminded. So I can't say they did it there, and I can't say they didn't do it, because I wasn't there.
So.
The tack coat would have been vertically right.
Right, exactly. Is there
Mhm.
something, can we ask them to do a tap coat to shore this up, you know?
Well, we can't do it
No,
now.
can't do it
We
now.
can't do it now.
Well,
But
if
we talked
if we
about-
infrared it, like.
So we talked about, like, so they cut this out from here to here, and this is the existing pavement.
Yeah.
And they heat the infrared,
Yeah.
and they put the other, it heats them up together so they
Yeah.
blend.
Makes
okay?
sense, yeah.
And once again, we talked about that from the day we realized it had to be cut open.
My understanding is that the infrared piece could be done now.
I'm not 100% sure, but
We'll look into it. We'll look into the infrared.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you don't have that, I mean, I'm not a civil engineer, but if you don't have that collar and the seams are not proper, you know, so in a couple of years, if they're starting to chip away, you know, plus.
chip away will peel away, separate from each other, but any place that puts in additional, adds on to pavement, so to speak, and creates a seam, the seams don't stay tight.
Mhm.
It does shrink the materials and so forth, it just doesn't, and it's right in the middle there, something, once again, it's not something we're bringing up today.
No, yeah, I understand.
And there's no reason that I wasn't there to make sure it was done. What would the work be to get a collar in there? Is that like a? You have to dig it out again, all the way out to, around the manhole, dig out that, plus what was dug out originally, to lift it up, and dig down beside it vertically to get the depth, to put in the concrete collar. You guys are
You're
amenable?
only digging what, a foot down, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that possible? The collar in there? Sure it up.
Have to dig it up and repave it again. I'd like to talk to our engineers. I have to be honest with you, I've seen hundreds of manholes and catch basin covers done and adjusted the way we've done with mortar and gravel blocks, so I'd like to discuss it.
But according to the plans, there's a precast concrete, right? That's what the plan called for?
Every time you see structures raised in roadways, and we've all driven over them, and you might not have noticed it, but there's always this concrete ring around it that comes up to the surface, and they put the final coat over it. That's the collar. If you ever, and tomorrow you go by one, you say, oh, that's what he's talking about. So they all have their concrete collar. It's on the plans once again. All right. So, sounds like we're kind of in agreement, everybody except for the manhole and the collar. Fred, you're gonna review the loam and slits and all that to see if you're happy. And we have another question.
Yeah, on a lesser extent, regarding the loan, we were obviously happy to see Nick's Landscaping out there doing the work, have an actual landscaper do it this time. But what was down before was dirt filled with rock, debris from the road. You know, hardly any seed took, it was mostly weeds. What they did was, they put down about an inch, they went around and checked of loam, and then a thin piece of hydro seed on top. After June 15th, it really should be done in April or May or even in September. So I just want to make it clear that while they did hydro seed, there was no, excuse me, there wasn't much prep work.
That is exactly what we said we were going to do in our letter.
Correct me if I'm
Exactly.
wrong, I thought, I mean, usually most landscaping and grass and stuff, you have like a year,
Two seasons.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
So even if it doesn't take, you guys would need to come back and fix that?
I don't know anyone who warranties grass. I don't know a single landscaper who would warranty grass.
I've had multiple projects where they've had to come back and if it hasn't,
I don't think that's on a warranty.
No, it's part of the contract that you saw
Yeah.
with the landscape.
So I mean, I guess I
contractor.
don't have an issue with this hydro seeding now, I'm assuming if it didn't take, there would just be another round of hydro seeding. Like, I mean, that's typically usually what happens.
Not
is
what
that-
they're planning, not from them, as far as they're planning.
Okay.
Let's say it didn't take at all.
Yeah,
They're not planning on redoing any of that, right, Kevin?
well, I guess so that would, I mean,
So would you consider that maintenance?
no,
I
I'd
mean,
consider
it has
that,
to be
that,
wadded, it has to be fertilized, it has to be cut.
No, I mean,
but
it's part of the
that's part of
plan.
the establishment, I mean, that's what the year does, is basically the contractor's responsible that first year to make sure it has been established. If it hasn't been established, they need to come back and make sure and fix it.
It was grass before, it just had tire ruts, so there were weeds in it. There'll be weeds in your lawn if you don't maintain it.
And 3
No, I
months
know,
in
no,
August
yeah.
and September, there's gonna be more weeds in
I-
it, for sure.
I,
It's not irrigated, and there are gonna be all kinds of summer weeds in it. There's no way you're not gonna get weeds out of it.
All right. Let's wrap things up here. Are there any more comments?
Yeah, just one more thing, there was most of the roadway was done, but then there was, a section like at the bottom of our house that was in exactly the same shape as the rest of the road, but that was left.
It wasn't loaned and seeded, I'm not sure if it was supposed to be or.
Yeah, so
It was just
we didn't know if that was just the way it was supposed to be, it was supposed to be left like that, or if the whole strip was supposed to be done all the way down, so.
And also in that same email, there's a section kind of adjacent to the, stormwater area in the cul-de-sac that was disturbed, it was never loaned and seeded. Now it's filled with rocks and tall weeds and et cetera. And anything disturbed is supposed to be loaned and seeded.
That's the base of lot 5, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw that highlighted area, I don't even think it's in the common driveway.
And the grass and the swale they were talking about is in front of lot 3 it was very thick, and it was high, and it didn't need any additional luminous seed in the landscape, I don't think it was necessary.
Talking about this, yeah.
Is that what you're talking about here?
I don't know which lots are there.
Yeah, I think that's what it's referring to.
So you're saying this is somebody's driveway? Okay.
No, I'm saying, I think that's off of the common driveway, because you can see this is the driveway to
Right.
So
service
where
another
is
lot.
that picture here? So I can get my bearings.
That's gonna be up over. Unless, no, it's further, I think it's on another sheet.
Oh,
It's gonna be in that sheet.
Louis Valley.
Yeah, it's over here.
I think that's the area.
That's off of the
Yours is,
driveway.
you're the last house to go up the hill?
That's our neighbor,
Okay, so which are you on the right at the end?
we are on the left.
Oh, you're,
On the left.
I'm sorry.
Your driveway starts.
What isn't seated?
Oh, I see,
This
I
is-
see,
this
I
is
see,
not
I
You go
see.
past
common
the
driveway.
area right on the,
I
you're
see.
driving down the driveway?
Yeah.
On that other
Yeah.
side.
It's this area, right?
You can just show it on the
It's-
plan
it's-
there, maybe? No, it's not area he's talking about.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think that area's right here.
Yeah, that's
Right.
the.
Oh,
that's the
yes.
area.
Yeah,
Oh, that is-
yeah.
This is your driveway going?
Yeah, I
That's
think
not-
That's the neighbors,
that's
that's not us,
past,
this is us here.
Okay, that's not,
that's past the.
that's not
common
part of the
driveway.
common driveway.
Okay,
It's
that's
the problem, it's the issue, okay, so that's,
I just assumed it was part of it, since they cleared when they were doing
it's
it.
part of the lot work, it's not part of the common
So
driveway
wrap,
work.
wrap this up.
It'll go on a
I
long
just
list
wanna-
of items they didn't finish.
Eric, there's one other important comment I just wanna make. So the funds for Fred Hanley to do the final review, I'm probably gonna be close to zero at this point. I did request additional funds from Walter a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I haven't received anything, so at this point, knowing that Fred didn't get to do, cause that, the request I had sent him included all the inspections he was gonna do. So at this point, I can go back to Fred to revise that amount, but Walter, I'm gonna have to get some additional funds to,
Yes,
to cover that last.
I forgot, you did ask me.
Okay.
I would just, as soon as that funds and what's left, it gets returned.
You want to do
Not-
that way?
I
That's
gotta
fine.
figure out slips and volumes and everything,
Okay.
so, and it should, it'll be covered, it won't, it shouldn't be all to the extent that you requested,
Okay,
so we'll just
so
take it
Fred,
that way and then have it.
Walter, any money that's not spent, I will give that to you.
Alright, so we hope to get the as-built by the tenth. Just confirm with us if that's possible with Ducharme, or if we can get close to give Fred a week or so to review. Fred will look at the slips and see if he, see what he feels about all the loam. You guys are gonna take care of that flow path up the edge of the cul-de-sac. You guys are gonna take care of the maintenance of the stormwater.
Let's just to be clear, was that to clear it out of debris and logs, is that what you were saying, as opposed to
The
the?
woody material
I mean,
that Rebecca was
I think it's
talking about?
mowing it, right?
Mowing, so,
Yeah.
yeah, but the woody vegetation is what
woody
he's
vegetation.
concerned about.
So the sedges and the grass.
No, I mean, it's-
I
it
would
sounds
follow
like,
your
it sounds like the
plan.
standard operating,
Yeah,
practice, at least in
So,
town, we do,
yeah.
I don't know about other
So
towns.
it's cleaning catch basins, which it
Yeah.
sounds like you guys already
We
did.
did.
there you go.
So it's cleaning catch basins, it's mowing the basin,
Yeah,
getting rid of the woody vegetation, making sure there's no, I don't know if there's a forebay.
There are,
Okay, so cleaning any sediment out of the forebay if it's built up too
We
much.
did that already.
yes, that's
Um,
okay.
So, I mean, it's usually detailed in the stormwater report.
Yeah.
I'm just going off the top of my head right now,
um,
but, so I don't think it's hard hitting stuff, it sounds like you've already done.
No, the reason I'm questioning is there's some sedges and some wetland plants that are growing in some of these detention basins, and some towns have to leave that, and they just take out
So-
the trees and the woody vegetation, the shrubs.
Yeah, I mean, you
And
do-
the grass is.
I don't know what it was done with Concom, but you do have a right to maintain these basins because they're stormwater BMP, even though they're within jurisdiction of the Concom, so.
Right, but the grasses and the woodland plants sometimes are important for
Yeah, for
nitrification
sure,
and
yeah.
everything else that they do.
Yes. Okay, so you're just asking what?
Exactly how much you want.
you talked to Rebecca and she said she was fine.
Walter, I would follow the O&M plan to the letter T, because that's what Rebecca was, referencing anyway, so just follow your O&M and you'll
Okay.
be fine,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's all listed right
Right there, okay.
in the operation maintenance and so forth, so it gives you times of the years to do, various,
And then the last,
maintenance.
and then the last point of contention was the manhole cover. It sounds like we're requesting a collar be done, but you were gonna go off and,
I'll check with our engineers, and we'll get you in touch with Fred.
I think that's the open items. One more
Yeah,
comment?
sorry to pull on this, the one thing that was mentioned before that I haven't heard brought up today is the 1.5%, and there was a request that was sent, I believe, about that, but I haven't heard anything.
So we voted at the last meeting that, we voted for it, right?
2 meetings ago, yeah.
Yeah, so,
And you requested, and I told the board at that meeting, quite frankly, we're not gonna submit additional money to the escrow.
We've
voted for
done
it.
99% of the work already anyway, so.
Yeah, I think the hope was that, you guys we could have knocked things off.
I think we did, right? I mean, if you look at that,
I do too, if you look at Fred's bond item, as you said, once we get the as-built plan, 99% of these things will be done.
Yeah.
There's a big concern about the manhole. There's, the street sign, the height isn't,
No, I
Is that-
was wrong, he actually installed another sign on the opposite side of the road,
okay,
so that's taken care of.
okay.
Well, I guess at this point, without Fred having done a review, there's nothing we could, there's no bond reduction we can do today anyway.
we're not asking for
Yeah,
it.
No, I
so we'll
understand.
wait.
Yep.
I understand, but as of right now, I don't know enforcement wise and how it works, but, we requested the 1.5, right?
We did, I had sent a letter.
So,
I mean, from a legal perspective, I don't think there's any mechanism for you to force us to, at this point in the game, add more funds into an escrow.
yeah, I don't know, it's above my pay grade, I think.
I wish it were below mine.
I do
We're not
agree
here to
that the
argue
majority
that.
of the work has been done at this point.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So I feel comfortable with the one that we do have,
Okay.
but let's see.
I think
how it
what we
goes
did-
from there.
Sorry, I think why we voted on it was to get it on the books, that we did vote on it. See, if for some reason you walked away or whatever, that, by vote, you would have been responsible for the 1.5, essentially, right?
Part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Part of it.
So let's just,
Okay.
See you on the 17th.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, you can come back. How's the hallway? Nice.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
See ya. Alright, so, we have, is it in here?
Yep, master plan, oh,
The charter and
next
stuff?
meeting, yep.
Yeah, okay, so we have a charter, and we have the table from the original, from the plan from 2006, right?
Correct.
And reading through this, actually, I mean, we did pretty good.
We did.
A lot of it's done. You wanna look at the charter first?
Yeah, so the charter, obviously is draft. I think we should update the title rather than master plan update committee.
Thanks,
How
Brad.
about master plan steering committee? I think that sounds maybe a little more,
Master plan steering committee?
So this committee is kind of like the management group,
they'll be the ones
the board of
essentially
directors for the
making
master plan.
making the, making the updates. So I went back to review some of the material that Pat Gray had put together like a year or two ago for the board. And she actually had put together something of a charter, and her structure is a little bit different. She was foreseeing a steering committee, and then from the steering committee, these task groups underneath that would kind of take on certain
Big pieces.
topics, big pieces, yeah. It's up to the board how you wanna do it.
Well, that's kind of how I envisioned it too, because I feel like there's so many big pieces that just one group probably. So in this plan, what, there would be like subcommittees out of this group that would go off and do pieces?
There could be, and that's something we can talk to the board of selectmen about.
I mean, it seems like a lot of work even for 11 people.
It does, it is a lot of work for
Yeah.
11 people, particularly the fact that we need all of those 11 peoples to have different skill sets and to
Right.
be able to cover different topics, so.
I can't envision that 11 people could be like, okay, well, us four, we're gonna go do the finance aspect, and you four are gonna go do, services. I think this 11-person group is good to get a good cross-reference of town. And then maybe some of these 11 are in task groups, but they should probably create
Maybe we'll
task
have a
groups.
better idea, let's see here.
I do think the notion of task groups is probably good. For instance, the Housing Production Plan Committee, is kind of like a task group for that piece of the master plan. And that's 7 people, and that 7 people is, it's a lot of work even for those 7 people in that group, And then, I think maybe we probably should add some verbiage on task groups getting created for these big out of this.
So if we look at the charter and the way that I had written it, so I referenced back to Mass General Law, where it talks about the planning board basically taking the initiative to do the master plan, and then what should be, it literally, in Mass General Law, calls out what needs to be in this plan, and I've included that in the charter. So maybe those are sort of the defining sort of task groups, like
Yeah.
goals and policy, land use plan, housing, economic development, natural and cultural resources, I think that should have been open space and
space,
recreation, services and facilities, transportation, and then implementation. So maybe we take that as sort of our,
Yeah.
the rough idea of what these task groups would take on. So how many are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like, we're probably gonna need 9 or 10 task groups
Yeah,
roughly. So if you have an 11-member board, that doesn't really give you enough to be able to break down into like 3 people to take on one of these.
Yeah.
you know,
so I mean, we could say that this committee will create task groups of, I don't know, 3 to 5, I don't know if you want to set a number. Maybe just say task groups of appropriate,
Yeah,
size,
I don't think we need to define
Yeah.
that, right?
Right. And can include, members can be included from this committee, so if people wanna sign up for a task force fund,
I think
Yeah.
honestly, it just needs an additional sentence in there about how the steering committee will then select and oversee task force groups.
Yeah, that's
And
what I
that's
thought.
really,
Yeah.
and then leave it sort of a blanket
Yeah,
statement like that,
exactly.
and
Yeah.
then as we get volunteers and they can call in, I know this guy that knows a lot about this, that they can
Yeah.
engage that
Yeah.
person.
Yep.
Gives them the freedom to do
So
that.
then, So you, at the end, you say that,
The
point of,
steering-
and then, and the steering committee or update committee, whatever you wanna call it, they report to the planning board, so we can talk, we can talk to the management group, whatever you wanna call them, and then they go off and, take our comments and take Board of Selectmen's comments, advisory comments or whatever, and,
Yeah.
can feed down to the task force.
So one thing, you kind of triggered something in my head, so, when they did the updates in 2006, it actually was collectively the planning board and board of selectmen that kind of drove it home together. Talking to Bob Sikansky, he would like to keep that same approach with this update, I think it's great, I don't see why the planning board and the board of selectmen wouldn't kind of take this on together, so.
For sure.
If the board's amenable, I would like to update it so that it's the planning board and board of selectmen seek to establish, or maybe there needs to be a sentence in there about the planning board, extends this duty to, board of with board of select, I don't know, something in there that incorporates both,
But one, all it
Board.
says, and shall report directly to the planning board and board of selectmen, that's not enough. Your last sentence says
Yeah.
11 members shall be appointed by the planning board and shall report directly to the planning board and board of selectmen.
maybe that is enough.
I mean, you
Yeah.
just covered it,
Yeah.
basically saying that
Mhm.
both the board of selectmen and the planning board are overseeing.
Do you think that the board of selectmen will wanna be, involved with the appointments? Cause right now
That's
it's,
a question we could
Yeah.
ask.
Well, I guess the question under MGL is, it's supposed to be driven by planning, isn't it?
it's driven by planning,
Yeah, and
So-
no, I'd leave it as is. And,
okay.
I mean, they can put input, I mean,
It's hard enough to get people to volunteer for committees if you then have to get
yeah.
both
Two
us
different
and
boards of
selectmen to do it,
yeah.
it's just.
It's
I mean,
yeah.
I'd love to have that problem, but I
That's,
think
Well,
that's
that's
very
very.
true,
I
yeah.
think, we probably should be having, whether it's at the planning board meeting or the board of selectmen's meeting, should we be having joint meetings all the time, or just,
I
know.
don't think all the time, but
No.
maybe quarterly or
Yeah, yeah.
whatever, we'll see
Yeah, that
how it
makes sense.
goes. They do wanna meet with the board on the 11th if we have a quorum
You said
available to
July
go,
11th.
yeah, to go to that, to talk about this charter, because I was telling, cause Bob, was concerned, he really would like to get this process going, so I told him, I said, I think it's a fair schedule to maybe, approve the charter at your July 11th meeting, start, trying to find people, and then by September, be ready to go and have that first meeting with the steering committee. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't think that's,
Yeah.
I think that's doable.
Yeah,
Is there a time frame for the master plan in general?
I think generally, looking at other communities, I mean, it is an update and not like a do-over, so,
That's what I was just
Yeah.
1 to 2 years.
once we, that's something that I think I'll work on this summer, is understanding the timeline and kind
Yeah.
of putting together a schedule.
Back
This
into
is how many
it,
meetings
yeah.
we should be looking at, this, we should have a kickoff, we should have a public forum for it, cause it seems like the vision is really one of those key steps. So I'll put together a schedule for the board.
So just, do they need the whole planning board on the 11th, or just you need
It would be a
quorum?
quorum,
So 4,
three,
3,
yeah, 3.
yeah, cause, it's 8 total. It's 3 of them and 5 of us, so. Right? It's a quorum, the
Really?
No,
combined.
they need a planning board.
I just
quorum.
meant for planning.
So we need 3 of us.
Okay. In your list of things, your goals and policies, land use, plan, housing. I don't think the current master plan really addresses it, and I think we probably need to, is finances, tax rate. I mean,
It's, well, I say it under, in the previous sentence.
the company.
Members of the committee shall be residents of Bolton with experience in, and then finance is one of the last things.
Where?
Yep, yeah, land use and zoning and finances. Members of the committee shall be residents of Bolton with experience in all of these things in the last.
No, I'm talking about as the major task groups.
Oh, is it not there?
Well, you have goals and policies.
Economic
land use plan.
development,
Yeah, but that's like adding business in my mind. Natural and cultural resources, open, I'm talking about like the finances of the town.
Taxes and
Yeah,
tax.
you know why? It's because I was only pulling for mass general law. I mean, we can certainly include it, or we can just say shall include but not be limited to.
For
I just say
the
shall include but
following.
not really limited, because we could be missing other things. I mean, I wouldn't
But I
make
think
this
that's,
quorum
I think that's a major piece that should be listed in this charter. Just because,
That's fine, I mean, add finances, but I would also add she'll include but not be limited to, just cause.
Cause the current master plan, they talk about, land acquisition. But I don't think there's a major discussion on the impact of, you know, it's kinda like, oh yeah, that'd be great, let's acquire land to keep it open space, but how does it fit into the financial picture of the town?
I don't know, I get a great piece of land that I need town to buy.
Right next to you.
Yes, and, I think they're actually talking about the Concom, it just went on sale, and I'm like, oh.
This one on
43
Fort Bush.
acres, the 43
Oh, the one
acres.
in Bush. Yeah,
That's the one that
So
came in. for
they've
the-
already been in here.
yeah.
I know, but she's now selling it. It's perfect open space.
I know Rebecca's already on top.
I know.
She's been doing so much
I'm like,
research.
Someone bought the Girl Scout property.
Yeah.
Well,
This-
Sorry, we're getting off
Yeah,
topic, but.
no.
so the EDC just posted a story on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so, Dr. Amy Clark, she has Essex Equine.
Oh, is it supposed to be an equestrian?
Yeah.
I heard
Yeah.
the rumor, yeah,
So,
okay.
so they're creating a new business called Bolton Equine Center. And their Essex Equine veterinarian is gonna, it's both, they're
Okay.
on both, but they're gonna have like some training and some breeding and stuff
That's
there.
kinda cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the whole
and,
parcel.
yeah, it's awesome, it's, you know, so
Yeah.
much better than a subdivision.
Oh, yeah. No,
And,
that's-
so, you know, they plan on living there eventually, but, you know, they'll have like caretakers and stuff, so. They, on Thursday, they just went before the Board of Selectmen, and they got their agricultural business use special permit.
I didn't go, but I assume it went well.
Yeah, I watched it,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
everybody was totally for it.
Yeah.
I was there for the lights, so we watched
Yeah, I saw your 100-foot lights, I'm spreading that rumor,
it. 200 feet.
200 feet,
Lights for what?
the highway,
Baseball field.
the,
Oh,
I heard it's gonna be like the ones on the highway.
Yeah, just light everywhere.
oh, did you get a lot
Pointing
of,
straight up,
You just need-
no good
You just
reason.
need one in the middle then.
did you get a lot of opposition from that?
No, we
No.
we'd already gone to Parks and Rec and
Okay.
kind of talked to the neighbors, so we've got a good plan for it. It's going to be really nice.
I think that plan should come along with massive mosquito spraying.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so I think on goals and I think we should land,
Add.
town finances or.
Yep, so
Well, I
after
mean,
housing,
is
all
town
that
finances
finances.
I mean, or is it that these things have to include a financial?
I know, because it
Discussion.
kinda touches upon all of it.
And finance really isn't in a lot of ways isn't a standalone, you know, when you're setting a goal, you kind of have to know what's the impact.
So maybe at the end of that
So-
sentence, say an implementation along with impact on town finances or something,
Yeah,
you know, something like that.
Yeah,
'Cause I would
and
like-
impact on town finances, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so like,
because, you know, if you pick,
It's
You
not
know,
a specific,
if you pick services and facilities, it's not, you know,
yeah,
those have a financial impact, but they're, you know,
I think I think that ties everything together in the real world, in the big picture.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas just saying, okay, yeah, great, we'll purchase this land, or, you know,
Yeah.
we'll do, you know, we'll add a public sewer, we'll add, you know, there's
Yeah.
all these great things
Yeah,
and dreams
and
to have.
finances are gonna be, well, just keep expenses low and,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, right.
so it's-
It'd be nice to get like, you know, Brian Boyle and the advisory really involved and,
Yeah, so that's the
Master
one
plan.
thing that I don't really go into detail on is, you know, and I think we probably could just cherry pick some people from some committees and just ask them straight out, can you be on this steering committee?
yeah.
So we get that background in
We
this
definitely need somebody
committee.
from advisory.
Because I am assuming we'll probably run this in the paper. That's probably another little blurb I need to add in there about, you know, please submit, if you're interested, please submit background information to Linda, whatever, something in there about that. So,
Is there another way for us to advertise this, since now it's the Stowe/Bolton Independent and not everyone gets it?
I think a lot of this will just be cherry picking people.
Okay.
Just knowing that they have that
Okay.
background, hey, can you,
Yeah, unfortunately, that makes it hard for the, you know, to the new resident piece of it. They're not necessarily tied into,
We're just gonna
No,
find someone
but
that's a
we-
new resident.
I was just gonna say, there are people in
I got some
town
neighbors.
that,
there are,
residents.
there are some, but it's a little hard, you know.
like, for example, the, Bill Nichols, who's on the historical commission, Eric, that has background in finance, was very interested in participating in town,
Yeah, yeah, we
whatever,
talked.
so
Mhm.
maybe that's,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
he would have a role, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the charter.
And then the,
I think, so moving forward, maybe for the next meeting, what I'll do is I'll put together that schedule of how, what I envision for how this process will go. And then I was also thinking, taking this implementation matrix and sort of making it new and sort of crossing out the things that we have accomplished and then adding in things that we need to, that I know for sure that we need to look at.
I
Just
thought
to
you did
kind
that
of.
at one point, or was it Pat Gray?
No,
who
I
did it?
haven't, well, Pat Gray did a
Somebody-
lot, but no, she never did a matrix, I think matrix are
Yeah,
useful, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
And then that could be something that we give to the steering committee, say, look, this is what we've done so far, you know, now run with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it'd be good
Yeah.
to take this and have another column where we say completed, or,
Yeah,
you know.
Or just, I mean, honestly, if you could even just color code, if it's red, it's been done, if it's, or if it's green, it's been done, if it's yellow, it needs to be,
yeah,
you know, something very simple.
yeah. And then add to it as well.
Yeah,
Okay. And I had met with the Public Way Safety Committee today, and they had some ideas about the master plan, so I've added that list, the master plan updates list. They had some ideas, so that's on there now too. And I take it as we go through this process, that'll be part of it, is just reaching out to all these different committees and making sure that their input's included, so.
Yep.
And maybe I'll try to keep doing that over the summer, just to kind of get a head start on that piece.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's kind
like-
of where we're at.
Yeah, rezoning, they're still pissed off about that rezoning of parcels, huh?
For which?
the ones that we went after
Yeah.
for town meeting.
Yeah,
Well, I think this is their stuff, isn't it?
Yes.
yeah, but the fact that it showed, I mean, I just, I know who's writing it, and it's what's on our minds, so.
What about that grant for helping with the, what was it
The
Magic?
MAPC,
Oh,
right?
MAPC.
For
yeah.
which one, for
For
this?
doing the master plan, yeah. Is that-
So, that's their technical assistance, under their technical assistance program, and we would have, that wouldn't be until like early next winter, so usually they come out, it comes out in December, and then I would apply for it like January, February, and then they would let us know if they, like this year I applied for assistance on the housing production plan. Unfortunately, they came back and said they were short-staffed in their housing sort of section, so they couldn't do it, so I don't know, it's kind of a, you don't know whether or not they're gonna provide funding.
And what, if we got it for the MAPC, what would that actually get us, like
Oh, it would
professional
be-
services from
Yeah, it'd
somebody?
be consultation from MAPC, and they have planners and mainly planners on staff that have done this before and can really, you know, help steer the town in the right direction, help write it, help whatever. They have, a whole GIS department, they can create savvy maps and
Yeah, that's a key thing,
whatever,
that would be
you
really
know.
nice to do, yeah.
so.
I mean, even if we didn't get that, how much would it, can we pay them to do that sort of
We
stuff?
potentially could, I
And
mean, if that's.
What's the ballpark cost?
Well, okay, so for example, when they did the updates in 2006, come to find out, like, apparently, because I saw all this information, how they put together this nice committee and da-da-da-da, and come to find out, it was basically a consultant that put together that plan.
So-
And I think at town meeting, they had requested like 50 grand, and then it ended up costing like 40, something like
So
that, for
it's
the app, it's
not
significant, it's not,
insignificant,
yeah.
I mean, just gotta see something large like this, and having been on
It's
enough committees in
intense.
town, I know that,
Yeah.
especially if you talk about splitting up subcommittees of a committee, it's. this
It would
stuff
be
just-
great
it
to
just
have
doesn't
them on
get
board,
done.
yeah.
Someone to, yeah, I completely agree. And that's not the only, funding opportunity, there's other things out there, it's just in terms of timing, a lot of it happens, it's like, you have to, like, apply in the winter, and I've missed that boat, so, you know, if we were able to bring someone on board, it's not gonna be until next spring.
Well, again, this may be a 2-year process,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
if we could potentially look at this winter,
Yeah, and that's a good point, even if we had someone to help us sort of bring it together,
yeah,
we can kind of do the legwork with, like, the research and the data analysis, and then say, here, this is what we've,
yeah.
this is what
Write
we've
it up.
gathered.
Well, so looking at this, their master plan updates, like, there is some pretty interesting topics of, like, new high school, not really, I guess that falls in facilities, I don't know.
Yeah,
There's a lot of like interesting like subcategories, but they all seem to fall within those major categories that you put there, so. New DPW building, that's always brought up.
Communities. center, senior center.
Parks and Rec, is that count?
Hazard mitigation plan.
Well, and
They
that-
have, so some of the stuff, they have grants out there.
Well, we've done a lot of, like, we have a hazard mitigation plan that
Okay.
MAPC assisted with last year. It's more like as part of those plans, we're required now to sort of reference stuff in the master plan, and I just wanted to say that we
Yeah.
did miss
Gotcha.
that, like,
Yeah.
our complete streets policy needs to be
Yeah,
referenced in the
yeah.
master plan. So.
No, this is a good kind of double check, making sure that we're
Yeah.
incorporating it and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Climate change
Um,
resiliency, I mean, this goes along with all the stormwater stuff we've been talking about, which would be land
Well, the
use
climate
plan.
change resiliency goes beyond that, though. I mean, like, I've done a couple, plans that's called the municipal vulnerability plan.
Mm.
They have grants out there, and I did one for the town of, Bridgewater, I did one for North Reading. And I mean, again, the town gets a grant, then they pay a consultant to put the whole plan together. So, I mean, the town doesn't have to, lose money on that. But it's, the fact that there's a hazard mitigation plan, that would be incorporated into it. So it just goes
Right.
beyond, I know Harvard just did one, Stowe just did one.
So it's
That's
beyond
something-
stormwater?
It
Oh,
goes
yeah.
way beyond. You look at all of your different vulnerabilities in town. I mean, usually flooding is a big one. Wind, power lines going down. You don't usually have fire that much in this area, in this neck of the woods. Extreme temperatures, extreme colds, extreme heat
Do
waves.
you have a shelter for people?
Yeah, so it's identifying, what it does is you put a plan together, and you identify all the different vulnerabilities in town, and you kind of assess that, and then after you put the plan together, you put action items that the town may have, like, we really wanna make sure, this culvert isn't blocked or something, or, there's detour lines, or you kind of put some action plans, cause once you have that plan put in place, then there's action grants you can go after, so the town can actually go after, fixing a culvert that's a really, big necessity, that it's clean and stuff like that. So it's a great way for us to I would think the town would wanna look into.
Oh, definitely, we talked about it for
Okay.
sure, I mean, we were so focused on getting the hazard
Yeah,
mitigation
yeah,
plan, we
which
got
is
grant
great.
funding to do that. So that's like the next thing, once the grant funding
Yeah.
comes back around for next year, I think it's like the MVP something or other,
Yeah,
we wanna,
yeah, cause I'm an MVP, certified, whatever you wanna call it.
so that's something we'll wanna do, is try to, cause that's another box we can check to say that we've done that, so. And it just
Cause it ties into
coincidentally-
stormwater.
Yeah.
It comes back
Coincidentally,
to
Bolton Local, that's on their radar screen for this year, that's one of their big initiatives is, climate change and.
Yeah, well, cause then it looks
vulnerability
at, not just what the existing rainfalls are, but what are the projected rainfalls, and, and maybe you put a plan together to figure out what your, issues are. And we have a lot of farmlands too, how to protect those and stuff.
So this looks pretty good, except just the minor edits we talked about, adding the financial and adding, the notion of having task groups.
Yep.
Um,
I'll update it next week and send it to you, and that way if you guys have edits before the board of selectmen meeting, I can add it in.
so that's the 11th, that'll be before we meet again.
So who thinks they'll be able to come that evening?
That should be able to.
I will try.
That's a Thursday?
It's a Thursday.
Yeah, probably.
Okay,
I'm gonna put it in my calendar.
okay.
I just can't promise it, but I'm gonna put it in my calendar and
Okay,
try
cause
to
like,
plan
we're
it.
not meeting before then, right now.
Yeah, no, we'll be on the same.
So then we would have presumably a vote that night for,
For the charter, and that
joint.
way we can start
yeah.
appointing
That's
people.
essentially what we did for the housing production plan.
What time does their meeting start? Is it 7 or
7.
7:30?
7.
7.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put it right now.
Where on the agenda are, where?
I don't know yet, but if you
Okay.
guys have a preference, I can
I
kinda
prefer
whisper
7,
that
just
to
7,
Linda
just
now.
You
to
can
get it
put
out of
us
the way.
first.
Yes, first?
Yeah,
I
first.
think that's fair, the fact that the board's coming, I'll ask Linda to
Yeah,
be
be
first.
good, just to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Then 7, not 7:05.
It's gonna be tough. I literally was coming from Sudbury though tonight. I wasn't even sure if I was gonna get here by 7:45.
You took the official John Carlin 5-minute late every meeting.
Not every meeting. There's been a couple meetings I've come here before you.
Except, yeah, that's true, except you bring either Diet Coke or that
My
water,
sparkling
and he
water.
always brought his original Coke.
Yeah, it depends on how much, if I need more caffeine. I'm pretty good tonight, so that's why I got my water.
And he always had his magic briefcase.
Yeah.
Yeah, he,
Let me look at the bylaws.
he was the official grammar checker.
Yes, this
That I
is
did
fair.
not do. I knew.
Alright, I think we're good.
All right, make a motion.
Move
To adjourn?
we adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.